Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth!
Welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. And now, Duke Durango.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. I am really proud to have one of the finest people in wrestling and one of the finest ladies I know, Kat Von Heez. Welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on the show. It's nice to finally have a chat with you.
It's so nice to finally catch up because you're somebody that every time I see you in the locker room, we would always sit down and have a good long chat.
Yeah.
And it was always something I look forward to, like, oh, Kat's going to be at the show. You're one of those personalities in the locker room that I would say is a calming influence.
Oh, thank you.
Some of us boys get things wound up and you just kind of.
Yeah.
So how are you? What's going on?
Not much, I guess. Really busy. I mean, I guess that's what you want in the business. I don't have much spare time for anything else. I mean, between shoot job and wrestling and trying to keep up with adulting, don't have much spare time.
Yeah, no kidding. So, and you were telling me, kind of off camera, we were chatting, you were telling me you're wrestling, right to till the end of June, you said.
Yeah, at this point.
Every weekend.
Yeah, between like RCW in Edmonton and I'm working for another company in Saskatchewan in June, where they're going to be bringing in a lot of people from Ontario that I've never worked with, or one girl that I've gotten the chance to work with, but 2016 maybe, so such a long time ago.
Right.
Recently went to BC, get to go out for Thrash Wrestling at the end of April again.
Nice.
And so yeah, it's just nice to be able to go travel again and see everybody and wrestle new people and see new crowds.
Well, it's really, as somebody that I've stayed away from shows, quite frankly, because I know people don't understand, like, oh, why don't you come to shows? Because I can still half-ass do it. And if I come back, I'm going to get the fever and then I'm going to do it again.
Exactly.
And I'm going to hurt and I'm going to miss work and I'm going to be mad at myself. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
But it's, from what I'm seeing, for all intents and purposes, it's a really, it's an uptick. The business is an upswing right now.
Oh yeah, it's definitely been crazier than 2 years ago. I mean, granted, I wasn't really actively pursuing outward booking as much and stuff,
Right.
But I mean, we were doing 2 shows a month, maybe 4 shows a month. I would go on, a northern tour or the odd tour with Tony Condello in Manitoba and stuff, or CW with Gavin Duggan and yeah. But it was I was saying I was winding down to doing 40-ish shows a year. And now it's there's I'd say on average about 8 matches a month right now.
Okay. Yeah, you can't, if you have a straight job, you can't ask for more than that.
No, I don't think I could fit any more in without going insane.
Yeah. Or missing time from work, right? It's
yeah.
I've
already used a couple vacation days to kind of hit a couple of shows that I really wanted to go to.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it worth it. That's what we used to do, right? I remember when the Hearts gave us our first kind of itinerary and it was 10 shows and 11 nights. And we're like, oh shit, we better quit our jobs. And Ross Hart is like, do not quit your jobs. That was the best advice I ever got in wrestling.
Yeah, he's got some good sound advice.
Yeah, that was one of those thank God we listened to Ross.
Yes.
Yeah, it was wild. So of course, you're somebody that I've sat and talked with a lot, but I didn't know a ton about your history. I know a little bit. I know you're a powerlifter, but you have a really, really interesting story that you don't, you keep those cards pretty close to your vest, I think. And if you're willing to talk about some stuff, I'd like to get into, first of all, how you got into the business for starters. That was a really interesting story in itself, because I think that there's a lot of us that found a place in wrestling one way or another.
Yeah. I think I was I always watched it with my babysitter after school, and I really resonated with China a lot, and he used to call me Little China because I was always a brick shit house, even as a kid. My dad's he works for maintenance. So, and he didn't get a son, so he had to make his 2 daughters tomboys and butch,
which is what you do.
Yeah. So, I mean, like when I got a day off of school, I would go to work with him and like help him set up like stages and banquet tables. And I just remember being like grade 5 at school, and the gym teacher's like, hey guys, let's set up the banquet tables for this, and 4 kids to a table, and I would just pick up the table myself. And the teacher was like, no, put that down. I was like, don't worry, I do this all the time.
Right.
And so I just was naturally strong, so he always kind of called me Little China. And but my dad is not a sports guy. Like, he genuinely does not like sports in the slightest. Like,
so like not necessarily not just a fan, but actually doesn't like it.
Doesn't like sports. Like, I mean, there was no sports channels in our house. There was never a game on.
Right.
I kind of connected with my uncle before he passed away when I was 6. He watched hockey, so we connected over the Jets a bit.
Ew, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was sick. So yeah, we so I never really got to watch it after I stopped going to my babysitters.
Right.
So that was like grade 4 and grade 5. And so I didn't get to watch it again until I was about 13, 14. And like, I just fell in love with Chris Jericho. Like, I just
I'm still in love with Chris Jericho.
I've met the man 3 times, and I've like could have had full-blown conversations with him, but I just get completely
Did you fangirl?
Every time. I don't lose it. I don't lose it completely, but like the last time I saw him would have been in Buffalo for
right.
I was an extra for Raw.
Okay.
And
yeah.
he came up to me. He's like, "Hi, I'm Chris." In my head, I'm like, I know. Like, I'm just trying to. So like,
like he needs to introduce himself. Hey.
I know, he's so polite. He's super nice. But I was trying not to like lose myself in the moments. I briefly said a couple words to him, but I've spoken to so many other people in the business that I've absolutely adored and like looked up to.
Right.
But he's just the one. I just can't. I don't know. Lance told me to get him a bottle of Grey Goose vodka, and he's good. I haven't tried that yet, so that's attempt number 4, I think.
Well, what you got to do is just start traveling with a bottle of Grey Goose in your bag, just in case you run into Jericho.
That's a thought. That's been a thought.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's funny how people do that to you, right? Because you do through the business, you meet a lot of quote unquote famous people.
Yeah.
And do you know who Dave Tiger Williams is?
Yeah.
I met him one time, and I had a picture taken with him, and you can see in the picture, like, I'm a little bit scared. Like, I'm a little, and it's one of the things, like, it was the weirdest thing, because I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I'm not easily intimidated. And when I shook his hand, I was like, this guy's the all-time leader in penalty minutes. Like, I was literally intimidated. So I get that. Like, I said nothing to him. Like, I was just like tripping. Nice to meet you, sir. I felt like such an idiot. I think I blacked out.
Yeah, I remember the second time I met him was here in Edmonton at a SmackDown taping. And I was with Phil LaFon. And we were sitting at a table with, usually it was one or the other. It was like Dean Malenko and Johnny Ace. And like, I love Dean Malenko, but I was like able to have a full-blown conversation with him.
Right.
And not get tripped up. And like, mine was still kind of, him and Phil were more or less talking because they had like the stories and traveled.
Spent a lot of time in Japan.
Yeah. Whereas like, I didn't feel weird interjecting when the moment came up.
Right.
But then like, Jericho sat at the table because he saw Phil, and then I was like, blah, 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 blah. Like, I think I said I'm Kayla from Winnipeg, and that's
right.
all that came out of my mouth. But yeah, so I really got fascinated with him. And I think I remember going to my local like movie rental store, and I rented every wrestling DVD I could find, and I just hoarded them in my room because I didn't want my dad to know I was watching.
So now, is it something your dad would have discouraged? Like, would have he told you to quit watching that, or you just didn't need the grief?
No, I don't think he would have like discouraged it. Like, now knowing him a little bit more, like I remember like I was terrified to get a tattoo. And so I just went out and got one and then showed him after. And I was expecting to get just like ripped apart. And he was like, cool. And I was like, like, so I think he just like tells you he doesn't like it, doesn't want you to do stuff like that, or like doesn't care for it. But realistically, as long as I'm not doing anything I'm not supposed to be doing, I'm good. And he knew I was like he genuinely kind of raised me off of fear. So he knew I wasn't going to do anything too stupid, because I was just like, I don't want to die before the age of 18. So like,
that was, my wife, man, my wife never lived with anybody before she moved in with me. She went from living with her parents to living with me. Okay. And her dad, when she was little, to get her and her sisters to not do certain things, would tell them everything started a fire. Like, oh, you can't do this, it could start a fire. You can't do that, it could start a fire. So one day I'm home, like my hockey mitts or something are wet, and I go to put them on like the vent on the heat register, and she's like, we can't put those there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, I could start a fire. And I'm kind of like, what? And so a couple more examples for our marriage came up, and I'm like, what happened to you? And then she explained to me that her dad would always tell them, like, well, I could start a fire. I'm like, no, he just didn't want you to do that.
Dads were good like that. Yeah. No, so then I got obsessed with watching wrestling. I think the match that really hooked me was Mick Foley versus Orton. I think it was here, Backlash, maybe. It was the hardcore match that they did.
Right.
And I like watched it like, I don't know, 10 times in a row. I just got so hooked. I was actually able to talk to Mick Foley about that match when I was on a show with him in Saskatoon.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he was like, that's still one of my favorite matches. Like it was cool that he still like revered that match so much, but that one really hooked me. And then I told my parents, I said, and my grandmother, I think I would have been, it was like right before WrestleMania 22. And I was just like, I don't want anything for Christmas but the WrestleMania anthology. So I just want the DVD box set with WrestleMania 1 through 21. And I don't care if I get anything else from anybody. But grandma spoils me rotten, because me and my sister are her only 2 grandchildren. So that was one of my gifts that year. So I got really spoiled. But I remember I went through all the DVDs I could and found every Jericho match I could find, and then watched all of those first. And then I went back and watched. I think I started more or less like I went backwards. I started with ones that I knew more, and then started watching older stuff because I didn't really know who they were at the time.
No, and that's what a lot of people do, right? You discover something and then look into the history. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So then from there, it just kind of, I met a lot of the local guys through MySpace, and
oh man,
I know.
Remember
so
MySpace?
Yeah, like it's just, I feel like I'm aging myself a little bit, but I met Danny Duggan and John Cutler, and who else? Those are the 2 that I mainly spoke to on MySpace. And I found out that they worked out at the YMCA that was close to was right next door to my high school. So sometimes I'd work out with them. And like, I think once Danny started running his company in like 2000, I believe it was 2009.
Right.
I went to his first show, and me and my sister basically made that like our once a month outing. So we would go to every show, hang out like after the after parties. I mean, she was like 13, 14, so she couldn't go like to the bar or anything like that, but we would hang out with them and really had like a big friendship with a lot of the guys in the locker room. And I looked into training, but like if there really wasn't any schools in Winnipeg at the time. So I was really looking at training actually with Divine in Windsor. So I was looking at that school, and funny that I ended up training with Divine years later in Windsor. Like
that's hilarious.
Right. It kind of full circle. And then I remember his name was like Quan Chang. I don't know if that name rings a bell.
It does.
Yeah, he's from Ontario. So actually, like my first like boyfriend I met online, and he was a wrestler. So before I became a wrestler, I dated a wrestler.
This is dynamite.
And he's like, you should come out here and train with Quan Chang. And I was like that would be so cool. Like, and so I was really, really committed to going. Like I was already thinking about moving. Like I was thinking like as soon as I turn like 18, I'm just going to go. And he ended up being a little crazy. He flew in for my birthday, and he was more obsessed with my cats than he was with me. Oh. So I was just like, yeah, he was odd. And so he wanted to come in again. I was like, you know what? I don't want him to fly here just for me to break up with him, you know?
Yeah, no,
So
that's fair.
I broke up with him online. I said, hey, like, I like you as a friend, but I just don't see this going anywhere. And he lost it. Like, he just lost it on me. Like, he threatened me. Like, he just went off. And I was like,
what
I
did I
can't go
say
out
before
there.
we started? Do you remember what I said about men before we started?
Right? Yeah. So I just was like, I can't go to Ontario. I can't train anywhere. He's gonna find me. So I just kiboshed that whole thing. And then like a lot of the guys locally knew I wanted to get into it, but again, there was really nowhere to train. And then CWE started talking about, I was kind of friends with Robbie Royce and ATM, and they wanted me to be kind of like their bodyguard female, like their China to their Impact. And originally that was the plan. And Royce was all like, this is what I want to do with you. Like, let's like get you involved. And unfortunately, the show that I was told we were going to start with that, Danny went a different direction with, he's like, well, we're going to start it next month because there's all these angles ending on this show. And, but then another girl ended up coming out that show in that spot. So I was kind of choked about it. She had teamed with them before. She would have been in the business like a few years prior to me.
Right.
Just as a manager, she was never really a worker in that sense, like a wrestler. But I was choked. I was just so devastated. I thought like this was my opportunity to kind of like get started.
Yeah.
And so I just kept, hanging out a little bit. And eventually CWE opened up their school with Mentalo as the head trainer.
Okay.
And signed up and kind of never looked back. But that was, I was the only female. It's not easy. There's just like a lot of like, you start learning like the locker room politics, start learning like it's not a friendly environment for a young girl to break into.
Right.
You kind of get,
especially 15 years ago.
Yeah, like you get told like, oh, well, if you want to be one of the boys, you've got to do this if you want. And then you hear like, don't do that. Like you just hear all sorts of things. And then of course, with the movement that happened a couple of years ago, like that was very much things that, I dealt with in with certain people and situations. Like you just feel compelled to do things, or like you feel like, when something happens, you can't talk to anybody because there's no girls to go to.
You're 110%. You couldn't be any further immersed in a man's world.
Yeah. And
you're afraid of getting blackballed. You're afraid of your reputation. I'm sorry. Like that's all I can say is I'm sorry because it's
I mean, like it has. I mean, that's the thing. Like it's all we can do is kind of grow from that. That's obviously the business has grown so much since.
I hope so because I get really pissed off when I hear that stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot better than it used to be in that regard for sure.
Well, how long did it take me to come talk to you?
I don't know, not very long from what I recall.
I generally stay away from the girls in the locker room. I don't like. I kind of feel bad because I don't go talk to them. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, I was 35 when most of you guys broke in. For starters, right? So I never wanted to be that creepy old guy. But then I kind of hear all this stuff, and I'm like, to a certain degree, I'm kind of glad I stayed away.
Yeah.
Right? Even though I would rather sit down and spend more time chatting with, say, the Giselles. And I even did it at the Saddle Dome show, to Zoe, Ava, Gigi, and come on, Jordan, you dumb bastard. Who's the fourth lady?
Taryn.
Sorry?
Taryn.
Yeah, there you go. I apologize. Taryn, I sincerely apologize. I'm sure you're not watching. But anyways, yeah, like I just kind of avoid it because I don't want to ever be seen as that guy. And I didn't realize men are fucking do better, boys.
Yeah. So it was tough. Like, I mean, there was points where like I genuinely was like, I can't do this. Like I was so mentally like at a point where like this isn't what I thought it was. Like this isn't what I want. Like I love the wrestling part, but I don't love everything else that is coming with it. And then I went to, after I got my first concussion, which was probably about a month. No, it was September. So we started in July, I think, or June, July. And then it was a tackle bump. Like he just kind of put his shoulder forward when I came up and it hit me right here. And like I wasn't knocked out. I got up and I think I might have given him an arm drag, but then after that I was just so out of it. And then this half of my face was just like black and blue instantly. Luckily the guy that owns the gym, Paul Taylor, Brick House Gym in Winnipeg, he's always got food around. So he had a freezer there with frozen cranberries. So we just stuck a bag of frozen cranberries on my face. And my dad came to pick me up, who was not a happy camper at all.
And did he know you? Did he know you were training?
Yeah. He just was like kind of against it because he's like, I don't want you get, like that whole Papa Bear, don't want you to get hurt kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%.
And so he took me to the hospital, had a concussion. I was out for about a month or so. And near the end of that, I went and did a convention. I wasn't cleared to like wrestle, but I was cleared to kind of like, I could kind of like be a manager and whatever. So I ended up managing a couple guys that weekend. And through that process, I met Vance Nevada. He was there promoting his first book.
Geez, I don't remember ever a time in the business not hearing of Vance Nevada. Like, honestly, I think that guy's been around as long as time. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. Before everybody else.
Yeah, like when I started training, I swear to God, Vance Nevada might have trained me and I didn't know it.
That'd be something. So yeah, I met him, but I got to manage. That's where I met Harry Smith for the first time too, and Brett was there. So I spoke to them, and I kind of like had a bit of a relationship. Like I bonded with Harry in terms of like friendship. We spoke about lifting, and we kind of connected that way. And he didn't want this other girl that they had put with him to manage him. Like he purposely like walked out so fast to keep her behind him. Like he just like was so like, and he had asked me, he's like, do you want to come out with me tomorrow? And I was like, oh sure. Like I don't have anything pink to wear or anything, but because the other girl had this big pink outfit that she had planned to wear. And he's like, oh, that's fine, like whatever. So I ended up finding this airbrush booth, and she was willing to do a big airbrush tattoo. So I got like a part with wings on my arm and stuff, and I came out with him. And then I did like a cat fight situation where I asked I got permission to do that because I wasn't bumping, I was just in control of the whole thing.
Right.
And so I did that spot. Vance really, me and him connected, and he's like, well, let's keep in touch, and we'll see where this goes. And when the time came up for the Northern Tour, so this is my first my first official show. I guess there was a girl named Ann Brookside. She used to wrestle out of like North Dakota, Minnesota area. And she I actually refed a lot of her matches when she would come up for Bobby J in Winnipeg. And apparently she was booked with Bambi Hall, and she just ghosted. Like she just wasn't responding to anyone's messages, like about 4 weeks out of the tour. And so Vance contacted me. He said, hey, like, what do you think about going on this tour? Do you think you're ready? And I said, well, our school just closed down right now.
Perfect.
So, I'd like to go because I'd like to kind of stay fresh. But at the same time, I wanted to get permission from Mentolo, who was my coach at the time, to do that. I didn't want to do things without his permission.
Right.
And he gave me the clearance to go. He actually borrowed me a suit to wear for that because I didn't have any gear or anything at the time.
Right.
And so, yeah, like my first trained matches were the Northern Tour. So I jumped
really
right in.
Wow. That takes balls. That takes,
I
don't understand. How do you wrestle with balls that big?
They get in the way sometimes.
I bet.
Yeah.
Wow. First match is on the Northern Tour. Can anyone else say that?
I believe, I'm not 100% sure, I could be wrong, but I believe Sarah Stock was in the same boat.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not.
Sarah Stock, I know you're not watching either, but if you are, let us know.
Yeah, I heard that through the grapevine, through people that knew her, but in terms of actual fact, I don't have any confirmation. Technically, my first match ever though was not trained. It was about a year prior to that, and I had an amateur wrestling background in high school. I had lost a lot of my weight doing amateur wrestling. And at this point too, I just that thing with the show where the girl had taken the place that I was supposed to go out, or we had discussed about, had just happened. So I was like, no one's giving me this opportunity. So Wavell Star was running 2 shows out in Saskatchewan.
I love that guy.
Kathy Cougar on the poster with, and he just put Kat Von Heez. He didn't have a Kat Von Heez.
Are you kidding me? That's how you came up.
That's how I got my name. so Danny was like, do you want to do this show? It's a small town out of whatever. And it was kind of a win-win for him because like, you know, if I wasn't great or ready yet, he didn't have to give me another opportunity.
Right.
But it was also an opportunity to see what I could do.
Yeah.
And so I got to, I want to say it was Larange, Saskatchewan. So another tiny ass town up north. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, so when are we up? And he's like, oh, I think we're going to put you in the main event. I was like, like,
okay.
Or I think they might have been contemplating first match, but I was like, I'm pretty sure those are the two most important matches on the card right now.
Yeah.
For a spot show anyways, like when you have 5 matches on the card.
Yeah. If you were a first match, I'd probably put you like match 2 or 3.
Yeah. 2 or 3 is like what I was kind of thinking of, like a 5-8 minute, like whatever.
Yeah, you bet.
Kathy Cougar was not pleased to work me at all. Like she just, and I don't blame her. Like now working the business, I get it because I've had to work untrained people.
Yeah.
And I totally understand it. But I think luckily I had, because of my background, I didn't look super out of place.
Right.
You know, I knew how to do a lockup and I knew how to like roll and do like some shoot moves. So luckily, I don't know who pitched it, but it ended up being me and Wavell Star versus Kathy Cougar and AJ Sanchez.
There you go.
So it started off a single, something got like AJ interfered and then it turned into that. So the guys kind of like saved it. But yeah, they announced me from Las Vegas.
That's a good match too, though. Like that's a lot of talent in that ring.
So yeah, that was my first like official match. Like it was like I wasn't trained for it, so I don't really count it, but that was, I guess, my first thing. The next day I ended up reffing for the first time. And then from there I kind of reffed through my training.
People don't want to ref, and I think reffing is a really, really, really good way to learn the business.
Oh, it was yeah, like I mean, I think it was Billy Bones, and I want to say it was Jumpin' Joe, I think, and I don't remember what happened, but basically I counted 3. Like Short Sleeve Samson was on that show, and I said I don't know how to ref. Like I don't know. He's like, honestly, just when their shoulders are down, count to 3. Like all you got to remember is that it's their job to kick out. Count to 3. So that's what I did. I counted to 3, and they just kept going. And I'm like ringing the bell, like I'm like over the rope ringing, and I turned into a spot, and I just got smoked.
Oh.
But again, I have a pretty solid jaw, so it's not like, I mean, it didn't take me out, but it was like poof, and I had to just completely move on from it. But it was my first time reffing and my first time getting kicked in the face. It was an eye opener.
That's a big night.
It is a big night. So yeah, and then I started reffing from that point on, and I didn't appreciate it at first. Like I didn't realize like how important it was.
Yeah. But
I started talking to like Kevin Jeffries, and I always forget his last name, but it's Steve. He used to ref for the Fed and everything, but I did a couple seminars with them, and like then I started trying to apply what they taught me, and it changed my whole perspective on reffing, and I realized how involved in the match I could be.
Oh man, a good ref's really important.
Right. I actually I was wrestling Evie for Can-Am in Okotoks, and yeah, like the ref's name was Curtis. Like that guy is like a lifesaver. He's by far one of like there's some good refs around here that like we take for granted all the time, but like
sure.
I think he might have kind of reffed like a couple matches that for me maybe, but like this one he was so spot on. He was not in the way, like he was like seen but not seen at the same time, and he really helped communicate with everything. Like he literally held that match together, like he was the glue. People don't realize how like new refs don't realize like you're actually a conduit. Right, like we're using you to communicate, we're using you for whatever we can in this ring to kind of get our point across so we can ad lib it, you know. And like Evie's new, like she's very green, right? So having him in her corner in that sense really kind of calms her. It makes her feel a little less like nervous, and it kind of gives her like so she doesn't have to like think so much. So that was great, because you don't see like refs like that are that involved very often.
Yeah.
There's a few here that really take their job seriously, but outside of that, a lot of people just kind of throw anybody into the ref position, and it's
horrible when you just like, who can ref, and some poor kid that's been putting up the ring grabs the shirt and you're like, ah, shit.
Yeah, and so you just got to keep it really simple and don't give them anything too complicated to do.
I think my third match, do you remember Rod Hader from Stampede Wrestling?
Yep.
You remember him? He reffed my third match.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. We got stuck, man. He was calling spots for us.
That's awesome.
He was awesome.
Yeah, that's like, Jeffries and Steve are both like that. Like they, if you're completely like don't know what to do, like they would know how to communicate with you.
Yeah.
And so I remember doing a couple tours with like CNWA when Vance was running. And there was a tour where I kind of like just took the ref spot for the tour.
Right.
And that was like right after I'd done the seminar. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure like this is the tour. I'm going to like put all the effort into being the best ref I could possibly be with everything that I learned. Like I'm still not like a phenomenal ref, but I think that really helped me grow both like as a performer to see both sides.
Be in the ring and see what works for every match. You know what I mean? Like I think I got made to ref. Bruce pulled me aside and he's like, I'm going to make you ref. And he's like, don't read anything into this. I just want you to be in the ring for every match so you can see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. It's really important. Like a lot of people get so upset about it.
Yeah.
Like you're taking them off the card and it's not.
I wasn't super DJ jazzed about it, but afterward I appreciate it. And you counted 3 on somebody. I did that to Johnny Devine and my brother.
Okay.
So I feel your. Oh yeah, I think Divine wanted to smash me. He was hot. He was madder than a motherfucker.
I could see that.
He was pretty bent out of shape. And I don't think my brother was laughing either.
The next time, oh man, so I was still reffing for CWE, and it was actually the night I was turning into a manager. Like it was.
Oh, okay.
It was already promoted. Like it was already like basically planned for the main event.
Right.
So basically though what happened was the first match I was reffing, it was Tommy Lee Curtis and Carter Mason from Ontario, and they were the first match, so it's a bit of like a flying one. It's like it's all fast paced and stuff, and like I genuinely did not see TLC kick out. Like I did not see a shoulder up, right? So I counted 3. But again, they didn't realize that I counted 3. Like the bell rang, but like Carter Mason kept going and then realized like shortly after that, like the match was over and I put the heel over. So,
how did it go?
Like, well, they were like, what? I was like, genuinely did not see you kick out. Like I did not see your shoulder go up.
And I got told the same thing. If they don't kick out, count to 3, right? Like it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, they were probably not too pumped about it, but I was also super green and it didn't really have any particular bearing on a story or anything.
Yeah.
But how it worked out is it kind of looked like I screwed over the baby face. So when the main event came out, it was Team Impact versus this big sexy beast. So AJ and Kevy Chevy.
Right.
And the ref got bumped. So they get the finish and obviously no ref to count it. So I'm waiting. And then I go out right after the 3 count basically to run in and he still got the pin. And I'm like 1, 2, and I stopped counting.
Nice.
And AJ, like, actually, this is probably the most timed get up together spot I think I've ever done. We slowly got up together. Obviously, AJ's taller than me, so at some point it took like a me. But then I was supposed to low blow him.
Right.
And he gets on me. He's like, what the hell? And he's like, he's got my shirt and stuff. And I just kicked him. I genuinely, because I got a crack, right? So I thought I literally kicked him in the nuts. Like I heard it and he sold it like I kicked him in the nuts. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die later. But I mean, like, you can't do anything in that moment. So
did you do that when you were training? Like, did you spend time doing nut shots like that?
No,
we spent literally a whole afternoon kicking each other in the nuts.
Oh my God.
Oh no, yeah. There's a way you flex your toe right back and kick the person basically right in the arsehole. So they have to clench their cheeks really hard and the toe of your boot goes right where their butthole is.
Oh my God. No, I definitely didn't do that. I kicked the inside of his thigh.
Oh, okay.
but I like, again, my shoe got so much connection and like a sound that I was like, there's no way I didn't clip him. Like, there's no way.
That's
and
awesome.
I like, my face turned red because I was like genuinely worried. But then Team Impact goes over, we raise our hands, and it turns me heel. So it kind of like me, that first match kind of set up that heel turn to be a little bit more impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, once I started doing Northern Tours, I kind of like never looked back after that. I just kind of
well, yeah, because I looked you started Northern Tours, and it was kind of like some indie stuff, and then bam, you're down in the States, like you're all over the place, mid south.
Yeah. I mean, like I kind of attribute that to going to the CACs.
Okay.
And just making a lot of connections there. And like we're hoping to go this year. Because usually from there, like you can kind of just network a little bit, and people that are maybe like, oh, you know what, I haven't thought about bringing you in a while. Like, yeah, let's work something out, or like, you know, they know that you're getting to the point where, like, for me, it's like I've got a couple years before I think like having a family is more of a priority. So like, you know, a lot of them will want to get. I know we want little bobcats running around.
Your little Bob. Oh, that's okay. I'm sold. You sold me a bobcat. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, have a whole bunch. Have a
whole
litter.
bunch of them. We'll be the new Hart family.
Yeah, I am 100% down with the bobcats.
Yeah, so I was really fortunate with like that, and I remember meeting you know who Ron Hutchinson is?
Yes.
So Vance was like, go talk to Ron Hutchinson, and I was so intimidated to talk to Ron Hutchinson. Because I mean, like,
He's
I knew right, like I knew a little bit about him, but like, you know, when you're really like breaking in, you learn about the workers more than you do like the coaches and everything too, right? I knew who he was, but I didn't know, so I was like so nervous. And he comes across a little intimidating at first, but he's like the sweetest man in the world. Like, he's just so nice, and I don't know, he kind of looks at me and Bob as little as his kids and stuff, and he's like a father figure to us. Like,
he adopted you.
Yeah, basically. It feels good though. Like, he's so sweet, and he's we stay in touch with him as much as, you know, we probably should stay in touch with him more, but it's hard to keep in touch with everybody. But
well, that's a good guy to have on your side no matter what, you know.
Oh yeah, and he's you know, I remember when I was going through like something when I was there, it was more personal, but like I got like a call, and he could tell it affected me. Like, I was just like I wasn't like happy go lucky, I wasn't smiling and stuff. And he's just like, you know, he didn't really know me at the time. He was just sitting at the table with me, like we had spoken, but he made a point of really kind of going like, you know, if you need anything, you need to talk about anything, like you can always talk to me. And he was just, you know, it was nice to have someone like that to talk to. And not that I didn't have anybody, like I, you know, at the time Massive Damage was, you know, heavily involved in my career. Vance Nevada was, you know, I talked to those guys, but I think like this one was a little bit more like, just when I got the call, he was the first person I saw. And it was like nice to see someone who didn't know who I was really kind of reach out and be such a good person. But yeah, it's I've done 7 Northern Tours now. And I
wonder what the record is.
I think for females, I take
is that right? You've got the
tours.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you count Ernie Todd's and Tony's, the other like Sexy Samantha, like Tanya might have more than me. But in terms of Tony Condello Northern Tours, as far as I know, I'm the only girl that's ever, I think, made it past like 4.
There might be other tours that go up north, but there's only one Northern Death Tour.
Yeah.
And that's Condello's.
Yeah. You know what? It's the people. I mean, it's just like, it's such a cool tour, and it's an eye opener too. A lot of people, like, I'm so privileged to have been able to go up there and see the communities and really understand like what we take for granted, and what people are very like not like ignorant to, like they don't understand any of the situations that happen up there. And I mean, I was like 21, I think 2021 when I went. And, you know, like seeing like a bucket of chicken be $41, $51 when we pay 20 or 50.
It's out of control.
It's like, you know, a family pack of steak, $75. You know, it's just, you know, and, you know, just like not having the ability to like get a part-time job as a teenager outside of like the northern store and stuff. But like I remember a couple of them would invite us to powwows and stuff and really kind of immerse us in the culture too, that like we don't get to learn about a lot. And so going on 7 tours, like I've gotten to meet a lot of people. Like now the kids are like, I feel old because they were like this big, and now
Yeah, well, but that was my favorite part about wrestling on a lot of reservations is I really learned, right? Like that was one of the cool things about traveling around and seeing those things was it's eye-opening, right? Like you say, I didn't realize what my white privilege was. You know what I mean? And people don't like I still didn't understand it until later, till my friend Sequin Hennique said the fact that you don't know have no idea what your white privilege is white privilege. And I was like, because I have nothing to relate with their field of experience.
Yeah.
Right. And I had a misunderstanding maybe of what the word privilege was. And so I think that that's where those things are important. Like it's, just to immerse yourself even for a little bit and walk in another man's shoes. People don't understand. I had no idea when I went on some of those reservations how fortunate we are.
Yeah, it's just like we take water for granted. I mean, we all take turns like boiling water for each other when we're up there because you can't drink it.
Yeah.
And like I know a lot of them are able to handle some of the stuff that's up there now because it's just been like that for so long. But like if you accidentally drink the wrong water and you have not lived up there and had that water, like you are more than likely going to get sick. Like,
that's one of those things I go, I mean, I don't know how to fix it. I've written letters and shit like that, but it doesn't help. Like it doesn't do anything. And I don't understand. Like that's what happens in third world countries. Like that shouldn't, sorry, we're kind of getting off on a tangent here because I get really, it pisses me off. Like I can't understand it. We can put a man on the moon, but we can't get fresh water for people. It's just bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I like to go up there and we do like the school talks and, drugs, alcohol, education, those kinds of things. And
they're so appreciative of you coming there. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm allergic to cats and I have 2 and I have asthma. So
that's always fun.
Yeah. I'm a smart guy like that.
I mean, like, I love going up there. So I'm hoping to do at least one more before I pack it in. It's just it's
bobcats.
Right. It's just hard on the body, like not just the wrestling part, but like the up at 5 a.m, like packing your bags up, getting out of the school, driving to the next place. The roads are not they're a lot better than they used to be. Even when I started, they're still better than what people used to deal with. Like they're substantially better, but like, and then Tony likes to go like 10 kilometers an hour. So, and don't ever try to pass the guy.
No.
Like he'll like cut a promo on everybody else pretty well, but me sometimes, but he'll let me have it. But then I usually kind of go like, listen, like, I don't want to be on the road. I've got to pee, Tony. Like that's usually what I've got to pee, and I'm not peeing outside anymore. Like it's just, and like, I don't know. It's there's so many good stories though. Like, I mean, like you don't get those kinds of stories going on a regular road trip to Calgary or, even from here to Winnipeg. Like there's just, I mean, like the truck broke down. We had to tow it with the other truck. Then we had to fly in a piece. We ran out of differential fluid. So they flew that in and they put it at the back of the plane. They squished it. So it exploded all over the plane.
Oh no.
And it was like the day before we had to go on another show. And Tony just like got a hold of the president of the airline, who happened to be coming out to the Oxford House reservation the next day, and flew it on his lap.
Brought it with him.
That's
hilarious.
And like, I mean, you get stuck. Then you've got like Tony's, like whoever he brings with him. Never short of any stories there. The last one, the second last one, his name was Terry. And he just wanted to pick a fight with like everybody.
Awesome.
Like he just like he thought he was the toughest guy, and he was 69 years old, right? Just thought he was the toughest thing in the world. I don't know if you've met the giant Orion
I don't think
before.
I have.
He's the one that was like with MPW. He's worked with RCW. He's in Mexico right now, but he's like that 6 foot, like he's that huge guy who used to fight in UFC or he beat Dan Severin at one point, is what I've been told. But yeah, he's a big guy. He's a gentle giant. He's a nice guy.
Obviously a tough guy, even if he stepped in, win, lose, or draw. If you're willing to get in a cage with Dan Severin, you're a tough guy.
Right, exactly. So like not a guy that you want to kind of get into a scuffle with, but he kind of was like pushing his buttons, and I was like, what are you doing, dude?
Isn't that always the way though? Like
I don't,
he's just always one.
Well, then he started going towards me, not like trying to fight me, but like he was flirting with me.
Perfect.
But he tried to like he would use my body as a pivoting point. Like he grabbed my waist and would move himself around me by grabbing onto me.
Well, that's fine.
And so then I brought it up to him because we were staying there for 2 shows. And hey, like I don't know if you realize you're doing it, but like I don't appreciate you grabbing onto me to move around. Like if you kind of shimmy past me and you accidentally, you know, catch me on the way by and apologize or that kind of thing and acknowledge it, like that's cool, man. Just don't like grab me, like
feel free to keep your fucking hands off me,
basically. And he's like, sorry, you know what, I really didn't realize I was doing it, I apologize. So again, I thought, hey, that's the end of that. Next day, same thing, you know. And he was like he was kind of losing, like he was selling merch at like a cheaper price than what we were listing at, and without telling, so money looked like it was missing. And we confronted him, and Tony wasn't too happy with him. And the last straw for that, and that was the first 2 shows of this tour, like this is like fresh, right? And he's already getting into scuffles with Tony, like him and him are going back and forth, and
oh boy,
they're playing poker for money, right? Like just a $5 pot, like nothing, you know,
but
just
still a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. So I remember Tony had pocket 8s, he had snowmen, right? And like I think he went all in or something, and this guy obviously thought he had a winning hand, and Tony beat him with pocket 8s, and he just went off. Like he went off, and he was like, who calls all in with pocket 8s? Da, da, da. And I was like, listen, dude, it's just a game. Like, I mean, like it's the luck of the draw. He called you and you
lost.
The cards came up, and he basically called me like an idiot in not so many words. And I lost it. I said, you know what? You don't belong here with us. You should be lucky. You're lucky enough to be in this room with us and hanging out with us. You're not part of the crew. You have no reason. You have no excuse to talk to me like that. And I said, we don't have to have you here. We don't have to communicate. And I just went off on him. And then later on, he came back and apologized and stuff like that. But I just said, like, you know, like, I don't know what your issue is this whole tour, but you're
shit disturber.
Yeah. So then it came out like Tony's like, hey, like, is he still like grabbing you and touching you and stuff? And I was like, yeah, like, you know, if he has a conversation, he touches me on the shoulder. He had to, like, every time we interacted, he physically had to put his hand on me in some way.
Right.
And so Tony wanted to have a talk with him. They gave him an ultimatum. So the guy that he brought, like his roommate was the one that brought him there. And so it was him, Tony, and me. And he was sitting behind me, and Tony kind of gives him the ultimatum, says, listen, like, you know, you're not good with the merch. You're not good with the crew. And you know how Tony talks. This is not like, it's a lot.
You're cleaning this up.
Yeah. And Gump's acting all disappointed, you know, and he's like, listen, man, like, I vouched for you, and like, you're making a mess of this. And he's like, you know, he's like hanging his head down, and then he's like, and then you're putting your hands on her, and she's spoken to you about it, and you just don't stop. And so he said, basically, like, we have 2 options. We have to drive through Selkirk, so we can drop you off on the way and you're done, you know, or we can go to the next town, and if you do this one more time, we leave you where we are. And so I was like, he's just like, you know, and he does that, well, you know, I don't know, I really got to think about it. Like, and he starts talking.
I have to think about whether or not I can really keep my hands off that young lady.
Right. Like, I don't know what he was. So he starts going like, I just don't want to disappoint. He like points to Tony. He points to Gump, and he literally stands up and puts his hand on my shoulder Like he reaches over and he's like, I don't want to disappoint her. And I was like, I looked at Tony, I was like
what
like
just oblivious.
Yeah, he's like denying that he's doing this, but he literally like as saying like, we just talked about this and he's doing it.
There's no way I'm putting my hand on this young lady.
Like I was just like, oh, whatever. So he basically agrees to go to the next town. We drive all the way through. It was about a 20-hour drive to go to the next town. And we're setting up. So keep in mind this whole time, he's picking up my bag. He's putting his bag next to mine. He's like helping me with the ring pieces when there's like a little girl, like the other girl that we had with me was like 5'2" and like maybe 100 pounds.
Super
right.
Helpful
and so
when you're setting up the ring.
Yeah. She's struggling. Like she can do it. She's just like these pieces are super long. Right. So she's struggling to find the middle, but like, I've already got these pieces on the truck and he's trying to help me with it. And I'm like, go help the other girl. Like,
he loved you, Kat.
He was just all over me.
He loved you.
I know. I'm irresistible.
Well, but you know what? That doesn't matter. Even if you are irresistible, it doesn't give him a right to be a creepy pervert.
Yeah. And then so when we get to the next town, this is where it took a big swerve.
Oh, it gets worse?
Oh, it gets worse. So he's doing all of that stuff, like touchy-feely, putting his bag in the same room, all of that stuff, grabbing my, like the same pieces. We get to the next town, we're setting up the ring. So the way this ring gets sets up is everybody has to hold a piece and then the post has to be pushed into all these pieces at the same time.
Okay.
So I've got the post, so I'm squatted down lifting the post. And obviously, as you know, we put mats under the post to protect the floors of these venues. So I'm looking down to like see where I'm moving the post. And as I look down, I see a hand coming through my legs, like from behind. And he's got the mat like for the thing, but he's like literally basically crouched down with his face right next to my bum. And he's trying to put this mat in. And I literally put the post in and I was like, what in the absolute fuck are you doing? And I lost it. I just went off and then he kind of scurried away. And then he was supposed to do the merch, but I just went up and he wasn't doing anything. So I set up all the tables and I started getting the merch and he comes over. And I very calmly said, I don't know what the hell is wrong with you, but I'm so done with this. I'm making you a promise right now that if you do this one more time, I will drop you where you stand and you will not get up. Like, I am not here to be like assaulted, touched, harassed. That's not like, you don't know me. We're not in a relationship. This is, I said, I will literally mess your day up. And it was like super calm, but very authoritative. And all the guys are watching. AJ's just loving every moment of it. But then Tony overhears me cutting this promo. And he's like, what the fuck happened? He comes running over. He comes waddling over.
Right.
And can't really run anymore. So I kind of give him the short condensed version and he kind of gave the guy a look and then he looks at me, he's like, show me what happened.
Oh no.
So he ribs me and makes me like do the whole thing, like with the post and everything. And then Tony after ribbing me, he like loses it on this guy, like just loses it. The guy walks off. He's wearing sweatpants, sweatshirt, like it's minus like 30 out. Like it's not a nice he goes out in sneakers, like basically a sweatsuit. And we all thought he's just going to go like whatever and like sulk somewhere. And like next thing you know, we get two locals come in and they're like, hey, like, did you know one of your guys is walking across the lake? And they're like, what? No. They're like, yeah, the one that like we saw him walking across the lake. Someone picked him up and drove him across to land. And so Tony and the other guy went to go find him.
Oh no.
They couldn't find him. And so we waited like a couple of days. Like we called the RCMP and said, hey, like this is a description. Like we don't know where it is.
Serious?
And I genuinely was like, oh my God, I killed somebody. Like this guy's gonna get eaten by a bear.
No. Anyways, finish your story.
Yeah, like I mean, wasn't feeling guilty, but I
Okay,
was
good.
like,
He
I
fucking
was just like,
deserved it.
so then the moment comes where it's now been like probably like 2 days, 3 days. We have no idea where he is. And the guy that Tony's other guy that was there, Gump, was his roommate. So he knows this guy's daughter.
Okay.
And so he calls his daughter from the school phone or whatever. And I like again couldn't really hear like her say anything so much, but basically it went something like, hey, like we want to let you know that your dad just kind of like walked off on the tour. We've reported it to the RMCMP. We just don't know where he is. We don't know if you've heard from him. And she's like, so of course she's like, oh, like what happened? Like how did, obviously how did it get to this point?
Well, he was sexually harassing the staff.
So essentially, yeah, Gump was like, hey, this is kind of what happened. And then she was like, oh, okay. And then hung up. That was it. Like
probably not the first.
Yeah. Like she didn't defend him at all. Like, I mean, like if someone called my dad out like that, I would be like, excuse me, like my dad's not that guy. Like, but she didn't go to bat for him at all.
So, this is a pattern behavior.
Yeah. So he ended up he got to Winnipeg eventually. He had frostbite and stuff like that, but he did make it to Winnipeg eventually. So he's all good, but
yeah. So yeah. And that's one of those stories. Like you say, you can't get that in any other walk of life. Like I've probably told this story before, and I'll just say, I one time seen a lady in a Smitty's when I was on the road eating butter couplets with a spoon and drinking pancake syrup out of the big spoon. Yeah. And you can imagine what she looked like. It was just one of those, you can't write this shit. Like you can't. No. And I literally just looked across the table at, I don't know if you remember Pistol Pollock, across the table at Pollock. And I'm just like, only in pro wrestling, man.
Yeah. Like there's like, I don't know, the stories that you get, the people that you meet, you just can't, but like that was
on the other side of that though, the people that you meet, case in point, right? Like I've been so fortunate over the years to meet so many good people. And I think that's one of the cool, I've never been to the CAC, but that's one of the cool things. When I see you guys go down there, I instantly get jealous. Like I want to go down there and meet all those cool people and, kind of talk about the business for a week.
Go. Like you have such a good time. Like it's unreal. Like it's just, the guys are, I don't know, it's instantly like, even when you meet, like there's the odd one that you don't get, like they're kind of like that big of a star that you don't really socialize too much with. But like, generally speaking, like everybody's just part of this brother sisterhood that like, and you don't feel out of place. Like I remember the first time I met Edge, it was right after basically his neck injury. It was shortly after he was off TV.
Right.
And nobody knew he was coming, or like at least most of us didn't know he was going to be there.
Okay.
So showed up with Beth, like everybody just like swarmed. Yeah. You could kind of see he was like not pumped about it, because mainly again most of them were fans, right? Like they just weren't letting him breathe, and he wanted to talk to Ron. And I just remember,
and that's the hard thing, man. People, I heard there's been something kind of going around. I don't know. Have you seen this thing going around Twitter recently where somebody, I think Ricochet put out, like, if you start busting my ass for autographs at 4 and 5 in the morning at the airport, like that's not the time and the place. Like I'm trying to, people don't get what a wild inconvenience that can be. Like you just want to go. And my thing with the fans is, as much as we appreciate the fan support, and without the fans, there's no show for us. And I want to make sure I show maximum appreciation to that. I also think the fans think that certain wrestlers, and Edge, with the story telling me, they think that we owe them something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I owe you to be polite to you, right? I owe you to be polite and civil if you approach me, but I don't owe you an autograph. I don't owe you a picture. And if I'm too busy, don't be an asshole about it. Like it's, I feel bad for those big stars, because as a nobody, there's times where people can be overbearing. So I can only imagine what it's like for those people.
Yeah, he was getting swarmed, and all I did was like, you know what, I'm not gonna, like, this is not the time and the place to like talk to him or anything.
Yeah.
I just like was close enough to like poke him. Did this. He looked over and I was like, Tony Condello. And he's like, we'll talk later. That's all we had to say. And we ended up catching up later. I talked to him about the craft dinner story, which is his famous story.
Yeah.
And yeah, we hung out a little bit late. That was actually like, oh my God. It was also surreal. I was on the show that night, and I think I had met Sin Bodhi the year before.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm going out for this match, and there's always like 10 girls or 12 girls in a match sometimes. So it's always like
so much going on. How do you put that together?
Yeah. And like, first off, Morgan is one of my favorite people of all time. He was one of like the VPs at the time, but his accent is just the best. Like, he makes everything so much funnier. But like, I'm walking to the gorilla. I've kind of like got like the spots that we need to do. And again, with 12 people, like, you don't want to lose your bearings. And he's like, don't fuck it up. And then I walk through the gorilla, and then like Sin and Edge are watching, and they're like, good luck out there. I'm like, I'm fucking it up. Like
yeah, here we go.
Like, it's jinx. Like, this is but just a surreal moment to like have like those guys watching like your match stuff. And but then I met Edge at again, I ran into him at the Calgary Comic-Con like a month later.
Right.
And a lot of times you don't expect them to remember you. Like, you just like, I know we've met, we might have had a conversation, but at the same time, like, you meet like a million people.
That's always my thing. Like, how many people do they meet, you know?
Right. So Vance, I don't know if you know this, but Vance kind of keeps track of everybody's like match histories.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I have heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he has like everyone's matches like documented. I mean, if it's never been posted, and like he doesn't know anybody that would have known you've had the match, those ones might not be on it. But
he can only do so much.
Yeah. So usually when there's a name that he hasn't met yet, like, so with this case with Edge, he wanted to give Edge his booklet of all of his matches.
Oh, okay.
And so what he does, he gives them a copy, and he just has them sign a picture of the front copy so he can put it on his wall saying that he gave them the book. So he sent me to go in line because it's less likely that the girl's going to get denied.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
So I go in line, but he recognized me. So he waved me up to the front, and he had me sit behind the table with him.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. So it was like that moment where like, it's crazy to know that I made, you know, a little bit of an impression on someone like that. Yeah. And then we talked about Beth, and like, you know, he kind of gave me some tips and stuff like that. And yeah, he's always been such a super cool dude to talk to. I ended up doing that with Jim.
What it does, though, more than anything, and I don't want to minimize this, it speaks to how cool you are as a person.
Oh, thank you.
Right. No, and I don't like it out, you know, obviously you're not going to say like, oh, I'm super cool and all these people love me, because then you're not super cool, you're a douche. But no, honestly, that does just speak to who you are and how easy you are to be around, right? Because you meet so many people in the business, and there's some really good people, but there's a lot of intense personalities.
Yeah.
You know, there's some wildcats in our business. You know,
not
bobcats, wildcats.
No, wildcats. Yeah, and like, I remember there, I also met Victoria there for the first time.
Okay.
And again, I loved her as a kid. Like, she was like super cool, like just that badass. Like, she kind of reminded me of like Veronica from like the Archie comics.
Yeah, you bet. That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So I met her. I think I briefly spoke to her, but then we went to, I remember being at the bar, like TGF Fridays, and this drunk fan was just
perfect
going. And so I kind of like intercepted and like started a conversation with her. And then he just kind of got the hint and left. And we talked, and a couple of the girls came over and we all kind of talked. She was like, again, super cool, like really helpful, like wanting to, you know, we didn't talk too much wrestling. We just talked like having full blown conversation. And actually, it was funny. The next day she was getting an award, and like, she wore this beautiful black dress, and she had a Ninja Turtles backpack.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, she's super cool. Like, she's such a nerd too. But I was on a show in Ontario, like impromptu. It was for Global Force, like Jeff Jarrett's company.
Yeah.
And I wasn't originally on the card, but then they added me to the card last minute. So, you know, I stayed by production because I didn't want to be in the locker room when I wasn't on the show. I didn't want to, you know, it's not my business, you know. And once I got added, then I, wheeled my bag in, and I go in, and she like called me out by name. She's like, "Oh my God, Kat." And like, she came over and hugged me. And that was like 2 years later.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah. And I was just, again, fangirling on the inside.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. Yeah. Like I'd say like the ones that I think I connected with the most was like her, Edge. And then I got to meet RVD, the first CICs I went to. Also like thought I was going to fangirl with him, and I didn't. So I was super proud of myself. I met Fonzie. He was at the, like, I met them, and then he went.
Fonzie's a character, man.
He's so crazy, but he's awesome.
That guy has energy to spare.
He had so much. Like, we talked for probably 2 hours.
Yeah, he's a wildcat.
But Rob was out. I don't know. He was off doing something else, probably just taking a break and stuff. So he was manning the table, and he's like, "Oh my God, like Rob would love you. Like, oh my God, I have to introduce you." So, I ended up coming, like, when Rob came back, like I came over and I met him. We chit chatted. I got like he gave me like a t-shirt. He gave me a comic book and like a picture of him signed.
Nice.
We took a picture together, and he had like the ECW belt and stuff with him. And he the next day, like, Fonzie got my number. He's like, we'll just stay in contact. And I was like, okay, cool. And Robbie Royce's son has like a wall of wrestling photos, and he gets autographs and stuff. And Royce knew I was out in Vegas. He's like, hey, like, if you can get like a DDP or a Jake the Snake autograph for Damien, that'd be really cool.
Nice.
And those guys were there, but they weren't really like at a table or anything. I would have had to really accept something and been like, hey, sign this photo. So I was like, hey, like, I probably, like, I have like a bit of a rapport with RVD. I think I could maybe talk to him about getting one. Would that be okay? He's like, yeah, that'd be cool. So I messaged Fonzie. I said, hey, like, is Rob still around? Like, is there any chance I could buy a photo off of him for a kid? And he's like, actually, he went to a friend's dinner. So he's picking me up tomorrow. I'll text you when he picks me up. So he texts me, I get down to the thing, and eventually Rob comes up, and he's like, we talked about his record breaker. He gave me like 2-3 more pictures autographed for Damien and stuff. And about an hour later, I get a call like from Fonzie on my phone, and turns out it's Rob on speakerphone. And he's like, I just wanted to say you're one of the coolest chicks I've ever met. And if I ever see your tape come through, he was with TNA at the time.
Right.
I'll put in a good word for you. And I was like, like, that was just such a cool moment, because it was like,
that's pretty cool.
A year into the business. So it was like one of my favorite memories.
Did you send a tape to TNA right away?
No, I didn't. Like,
Jackass.
I didn't have a lot of footage. I didn't have a lot of footage at the time. Like, that's one thing I kind of regret, was not like bringing a camera with me everywhere.
See, I have all kinds of footage, but I never sent shit. I literally, in my career, I'm not proud of this. This is for you kids out there. This is dumb. We didn't have YouTube, right? So I'm not kidding you. I never sent one tape.
Wow.
I never sent a single tape anywhere. In fact, I was supposed to go on an English tour. I'm not going to say for who, because I like the guy. I don't want to. And he brought in all the guys that were jacked. And the Highlander went there, and he's like, yeah, you kind of left the best worker at home. And that, and so the guy got a hold of me. He said, send me a tape. And my ego was like, no, fuck that. Yeah, he didn't like my look, and fair enough. I mean, I've never been, this jacked wrestler, but it was just like, well, if you want to draw money with a heel, I could probably help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, the guy, he didn't know me, going off a picture, but he said, send me a tape. So he was giving me an opportunity. So I don't want to shit on the guy, but it was part of my ego was like, no. But then I also heard what they were making over there, and I wasn't willing to, and 50 pounds a day was $75 a day. I think at the time I made like $100 a day at work. So right. Like, well, I'm not leaving my wife for that. And that's one of the reasons, people say like, oh, why didn't you make it? There's so many reasons. And that again is one of them, because I only treated it like a business. Yeah. If I was losing money to be there, I'm not going.
Yeah. Like, that's how I looked at it too. In some cases, like, if I should have gone, like, I should have left again earlier in my life, like before I was more settled.
Right.
And so like, I moved to Alberta. Like, that was my, like, hey, like, leave it all behind, like, take the risk, move out here, but like live in a basement suite, bumming it. And see what happens. And I should have basically like taken the opportunities, like when I met people, like, hey, like I'm gonna come down to Florida for like 2 months. Like I should have like gone.
Yeah.
But I look back and I think part of me was like, I think I always saw myself like settling down, getting married, having kids, and that was always in the back of my mind more important to me
Right.
than going. And I never admitted that to myself at that point.
Right.
But I think now being where I'm at, like I think that's also why I didn't really pursue stuff. Like
there's a point where you're not afraid of success, but you're not necessarily chasing it.
Yeah, and like I mean,
Right.
I think like I know for a fact I'm genuinely afraid of failure.
Yeah.
It's one of the main reasons I never went to post-secondary, because I just like, I mean, I graduated with honors. Like I had 2 languages, I had 2 diplomas in high school. Like I wasn't like dumb or failing anything, but I was so afraid to go into a field that I thought I liked and then fail at it that I never pursued it. Like I was always, and my mom is very much like that too. I'm a little bit more of a risk taker than her when it comes to that, but well, like actually the one
I was also spoiled locally, right? Because I got to wrestle with like Harry and TJ and all these really good guys. So I was like, why am I going there? Like, actually, did you ever see Tiger Khan?
Yeah,
you know who that is? He went to Europe, and it was kind of at the time I was talking to this pro, and he went. He was supposed to go for 3 months. And he phoned me. He was home in 11 days, and he just said, "Don't go over there. You won't learn anything." And that's also one of the reasons I didn't send a tape. Now that I'm kind of telling that story, I don't want to make it sound like it was just my ego, but he said, "Yeah, he's like, don't go."
Okay.
Because he knew too. For me, going to your point, like, would it have been great? Was I willing to do the traveling if I made it? 100%. But at the same time, I had a wife at home that I loved, and I wasn't leaving her for $50 a day.
No.
Right. Like that was, well, that held you back. Okay. I have zero regrets,
Yeah.
And that's I can say that honestly now. My body's a little banged up, but overall I'm not bad.
Yeah.
On either side, to say that I kept the important relationships in my life, but I also got to wrestle. The juice was worth the squeeze. I kind of got everything I wanted out of it. I got to make some money wrestling, which is all I ever wanted, coming from an amateur wrestling background. I never grew up wanting to be a WWE champion. That was literally never something I thought of.
Right.
For right or wrong, that was never something I thought of. Maybe it was too big of a dream too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think, well, and this is actually why I use Giselle a lot of the time, because that girl's like 150% fearless. Like she just she just goes, and
she's an example for other people that want to do it.
Yeah. I said, if you want to go, she didn't see her family for years. Like she gave up everything to just go. She busted her butt and proved that she belonged to be there. And then she just made it to the top of the food chain there, and
she's so nice.
I know she's
you kind of want to hate her.
The nicest I've ever met.
What's that? Sorry.
She is. I always remember when I was on Ontario before her, and I was like, I know she was coming out,
right?
And I was like, she's a diva, but she's like a lovable diva, and I don't know how else to describe her. And I remember saying that to like Caitlin Diamond, and she's like, I don't really get what you're getting at, but okay. And then when Giselle moved out there, I think one of her first few matches were with Caitlin.
Oh, okay.
And then Caitlin messaged, she's like, I totally get what you mean now. And I was like,
she's a diva herself, but she does not project it onto other people.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Like she's honestly, she was one of the people when I first met her, I actually didn't know how to take her because I had just met her and she was so nice. Like, hey, I'm going to just hang back and watch the goings on here. And I realized, oh, she's just really sweet. Like, she's just really nice lady.
Yeah. She's super nice. So like, I get the chance, like we get to FaceTime and chat, not as often as I like. I mean, like she's super busy, and I mean, me too, like with my work schedule and stuff, but we've gotten, like when she was in the UK, we kept in touch and stuff, and just so happy to see her kind of like get the recognition she's worked so hard for.
Yeah. And that to me, you know what, and that's somewhat, I always take a little bit of this, and you should too. When someone that you worked with that much makes it, that's kind of like you making it too, right? You had a hand, whether people want to say that or not, you had a hand in getting those people there. Right. Like I worked with a lot of young guys in their formative years that did pretty good in the business. And there's always that part of me in the back of my mind, like, I never made it, but I helped that kid get there, and I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean,
right,
I have had so
sorry,
many.
Go ahead.
I just had a lot of, like, I had her first match, and I've had a lot of those other, people's first matches. So it's nice to see them go somewhere and have that success.
Speaking of kind of young up and comers, did Zoe Sager have her first match with you?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, because I kind of remember I was like, wow, who's this little girl? And I see her now. Holy shit, can she work?
Yeah.
She's doing really well for herself.
Yeah, she's keeping busy, and she's definitely a flyer. So she's athletic in that sense. So
yeah, well, that's one thing I think. Wow, that all of you ladies bring to it now. The athleticism is unbelievable, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's quite frankly, I think on a certain level, the ladies stole the show at WrestleMania. I don't know if you watched it, but they tore the house down.
Which one was did you have a favorite one? Like, was it the Becky Lynch?
Oh yeah, that match was fantastic. But that match was the storyline was perfect. Even like my wife and I were watching, I said, even Becky Lynch's haircut reflects that Bianca cut her hair. Like, she got this new do, but it was still jaggedy and shagged. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a proper haircut.
Yeah.
In that sense of the word. So I was like, these two have committed so much to this. And the other thing is, as somebody that got swerved hard, because I was like, why the fuck would they waste Bianca like that in a 36-second squash match? I was not happy with the way all that went down. So to see her, to see Becky return the favor in this way, man, I just sentimentally, physically, it was an amazing match. And then sentimentally, the way they've worked that whole program, I thought it was excellent. Yeah, no, it was incredible. Yeah. Like my other favorite match, I think, was like Rollins and Cody Rhodes. Yeah. It was such a good match. Like, so good. I thought Edge and AJ too had a really, really, really good kind of old school psychology match. I thought Ronda and Charlotte was a little bit rough, but I think some of that's just because Ronda's such an amazing athlete. I just think that's a little rust. That's all it is. Yeah. Hard, I remember, do you remember at the very beginning of Edge and AJ's match when like Edge went through the ropes and he was like he's begging him off? I was like, that's just such an old school thing to do that nobody does anymore. Like, no one gets under the ropes like, hey, get the guy back. Get the guy back. Yeah. And that to me is that, like, yeah, anyways, I could do a whole other hour on I don't know, man. The kids, everybody just works so different now that I literally am like, I can't be that arrogant to say they don't know how to work. The business has changed for me. Yeah, it's right? Definitely, even from when I started, it's not the same either, and so it's like I find myself sometimes like forgetting to play the character because everybody's so wanting to do this, and I'm like, this isn't me. Like, this is not what I do. So I mean, like, that's why, like, personally, I'm better suited sometimes as a heel, because then I can control the pace. I can just go like, no, like, we're not, like, you can get your crap in, like, we're gonna do some cool stuff, but you can have this at the beginning and this in your comeback, and that's it, and sometimes less is more. Like, I mean, me and Taryn did and when she first came over to ICW, we just did because I knew the other girls were going to go out and do all of the stuff, right? And I was like, yes, everything. Yeah, I was like, we don't need to go out there and do like a million things. Like, we have a purpose on this card to like tell a story, start something between us, and then just 8 minutes, keep it really simple. Right. And like, she told me, I guess, like, after her match, like, her friend was in the audience and messaged her, and he's like, storytelling, nice. Yeah. And that's a proud thing to hear. Yeah. Right? Like, it's because sometimes I watch the one thing that I think, I mean, and not, again, I want to be, sitting back in my rocket chair, like, oh, today's wrestling. I just, the biggest thing for me is because the athleticism I love, I really, really do like, and I use Michael Richard Blaze as an example of athletically and creatively. That kid was at a level 5 years ago that I was never at my prime. Like, he, right. So I don't want to in any way sort of diminish that. But the one thing I would knock on today's wrestling is I never know who the heel is, just because everybody wrestles the same. Yeah. I was like, when I was a kid, I could do moonsaults, I could do front flips, I could do all that shit, but you never saw me do it because those were babyface moves. Yeah, I agree. Like, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. That was probably to my detriment, but yeah, I could do all that shit and just never did it. Well, yeah, and that's like, for me, it's like,
Well, and to a lot of the stuff that I did, like when Mental would teach me, and he said, like, I'm not a flyer by any sense of the word, but there was things that I used to be able to do. Like I used to, like, if I was running and someone was bent over, I do a backflip off of their back and like land. You know, I used to be able to like hook the hip toss, backflip off their neck, and then arm drag. Like, but like when you don't have a girl to do that with for 5-6 years, like you don't do it, you lose it. And then too, like I was very big on like, okay, like one of my trainers at one point, like early in my career, like not Mentalo, but someone else kind of who was briefly in the picture, he was like, you know, like you should have your baby, like when you're baby face, you do these moves, and your heel, you do these moves. But I was like, well, you don't see, like when you see like Randy Orton, for example, he does the same moves.
Yes.
Like, you know, he doesn't change his move set, but he changes what he does before and after these moves.
He changed, well, he changed, yeah, exactly. He changed how he fills the gaps.
Yeah. So I was like, well, no, I'm not going to like cut like my matrix out, but like I'll matrix and then get caught into something, or, you know, like get stuck, or like something where it's still, I do it, or I attempt to do it, and it kind of just
you at least show that you can do it, whether or not you pull it off or not, right? Like,
exactly.
Can I do a frog splash? Yeah, but I should never land it. You know,
no,
it shows me nobody home.
Yeah. So, or like, you know, if cross body and then they roll through and they end up getting me in a pin, like that kind of thing. Like,
yeah, you bet.
So, I mean, I that's about the only flying move that I do is a cross body off the top. That's
still pretty high flying. I mean, these guys on all their fancy corkscrew flips. Get out of here.
I can't. I remember like Mental was like, hey, let's try a corkscrew, and I was like, okay. So I stand on this chair, and like he shows me the thing. He's like, yeah, you just gotta like, you know, tuck and do this. And I was like, all right, got it, coach. And like I jumped, and in my brain, I was rotating. In the video, I definitely didn't rotate at all. Right? You know, he was like, what in the fuck was that? And I was like,
it was awesome. What are you talking about?
Like, I don't know. So, I mean, but the thing is, like, especially with most girls, I mean, obviously there's some girls that are my size too, but for the most part, if you work with me, and you're falling, like you'll never have to worry about you dying, because I'll catch you.
Yeah.
You know, and you can land on me and it's not going to destroy me, you know?
Yeah. Catching is getting to be a soapbox of mine, actually, because I see a lot at every level, a lot of missed catches, and it's horrifying to me.
Yeah. I just, well, and that's why when people are like, oh, like you should do a suicide dive, I was like, who the hell is catching me? Like most people, again, would see me flying at their face and go, whoop, nope. Like,
yeah, they give you this move, like, ole.
Yeah. It's not worth it. I mean, everyone else can do the dive. Like, I'll catch you all day. But like, I'd rather just kick you.
Yeah. Well, and again, like if I'm the heel, I shouldn't be flying at you anyhow, you know?
No. Yeah. Like, I just prefer that kind of stuff. And that's why, like, I don't know, you know, with Sexy Sam, when she was like kind of still working, she was more of a brawler, so we would always have more of those like brawl type matches, and it was you know,
those are fun.
She can do some flying stuff, but like it was just our styles kind of meshed better, especially when I broke in. Like, she was kind of a good mentor for me to kind of pull that style out of me. And so even when me and Giselle had our street fight, like the fans voted it match of the year out in Saskatchewan. Because it was
good. Congratulations, good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was like we weren't expecting it. Like, we had so much fun doing that match.
Right.
There's like, we broke the wall. We felt bad about that, but
vandalism hurts everyone, ladies.
Yeah, and we were doing, because I think one of the new Star Wars movies had just come out. So we decided that we were gonna fight with the kendo sticks and pretend that they were like lightsabers.
Sure.
And we were hitting, boom, boom. And then like we went to hit, and like you couldn't plan this shit if you tried. Her stick snapped, and like just the top part snapped. And then it like rotated twice and then smacked her in the forehead. Like just point in the forehead. And she has extensions, so her hair just went flying. And it was just the best moment.
That's hilarious.
And then like some people brought stuff, some people did, and we had one real cookie sheet, just one,
just the one,
just one, and we had two crappy aluminum things.
Whoa, what happened? There you are.
Yeah, so I had two crappy aluminum things. So she's on the outside, she's beating the crap out of me, with this real cookie sheet. She's working my hand. She's just putting my hand down, smacking me with the cookie sheet. And so like I'm selling her around the ring, and I find these 2 crappy aluminum things on the floor. And I reach down and I like full extension just smacked her in the face with it. Just my shoe. And it obviously like wasn't like painful because they're just aluminum.
Right.
But like I committed wholeheartedly to again. The guys were like, it was one of the best moments in that match because like you just pretended like it was 100% like
smash.
Yeah. And then like we did like the chair catch where she does the super kick to the chair.
Oh yeah.
But she kind of rushed the kick in that sense. So I had just caught it. So I didn't have time to bring it to my face.
Right.
So I caught it and she kicked it. So it left like the rotation in my hand. So it came and hit me in the forehead.
Nice.
And it busted me open.
Little hard way color. Nice. Good. Yeah, I call that good for the business. That's good for the business.
I bleed a lot in matches for some reason. I get hard weighed a lot.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny.
Not
really, but
I mean, I don't mind. I mean, like if it's, I don't know, like I never saw, like, especially when I'm working someone like green or someone new, like it doesn't make sense for me to like lose my shit on them for stuff like that because it happens. They're nervous. Yeah. Like me going and beating the living crap out of them isn't going to make them less nervous.
I use the 3 steps rule. You get 3, right? Because the first one, okay, you're just young and excited.
Yeah.
The second one, I'll give you a warning. Hey, take it easy. Third one, you get a receipt.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. So like we were working, it was Strathmore, and like it was her first time being heel, and she just, like she came in and she just popped me like right in the face, just boom, and like I was busted open and just bleeding. So like small town show, nobody else getting color, girls are bleeding everywhere. So,
that's dynamite.
And then like I remember I was reffing for ringside, and the main event was it was Billy Bones came out with a contract. He can work whoever he wants.
Oh, okay.
Right. And he
Money
wants
in the bank.
Right. So he wants to work me for some reason. So
it's easy to beat up girls.
Yeah. So I end up having this impromptu match with like, and it was like there was like a kid's birthday party in the room, family friendly show. And he had communicated with me earlier that he does like double knees in the corner. And then he kind of, when he like kicks you in the stomach, he bends you over and kind of gives you kicks upward. Okay. And he's like, but I'll give you, he's like, I'll let you know when those are coming. So I was like, okay, cool. And Bobby is in his corner. So Bob is like holding he's choking me on the ropes and stuff like that when the ref's not looking. And so he gets me in the corner and Bob's holding my feet in place. And he kind of like is running as if he's going to do a clothesline. But then I see his body language shift where his body comes back.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, oh, this isn't a clothesline. So I get my hand up, but his knees, like they didn't come this way. They just came straight to my face.
Oh.
So I bit like through the upper part of my lip. And like it felt like I had no lip. Like it felt
that
like
must have hurt so bad.
Yeah. I thought I bit my lip off. So I close my mouth and blood is just pooling in my mouth. And I fall to my knees and Bob is choking me on the ropes, but like asking me, he's like, are you okay? Like, and I spoke and then all this blood just came like pouring out. Oh. And Billy Bones grabs me. He's like, okay, like, let's go home. So like, I just we start shot and I'm holding this thing up with my tongue. I'm just pushing the lip, like my lip
Nasty.
up. And like, I'm just clubbing in the back. Like this turned into like more of like an intense brawl all of a sudden. And then the finish was like, he goes over and then he puts me in a crossface. And then Bob puts me in a crossface. So I'm in this double crossface and I'm just bleeding. And the guy that's supposed to make the save is not coming out. So
he's making sure you really sell it, hey?
Just bleeding everywhere. This like poor kid, like just his birthday, only girl on the show. And she's just bleeding like a stuffed pig, basically. And then Bob thinks this is the funniest thing I've ever said to date. Cause I finally go to the back and I go outside and I'm like, I've broken down. Cause I genuinely 100% thought I bit my lip off. Like I actually thought
you thought you were from here down missing.
Yeah. I thought I was missing a lip. So I bend over and I'm like, I'm gonna be ugly forever.
Oh no.
Right. And he's like, the fact that like you're not upset about it hurting or anything, you're just
I'm gonna be
upset
ugly
about
forever. I can
like,
take the pain.
yeah. And so I had to get 6 stitches in my lip.
Okay, I was waiting. Like, how many stitches?
Yeah, it was 6 stitches.
And how bad did that hurt? I bet that hurt almost as much, if not more, than the original smack.
Yeah, it sucked. And the doctor was a dink.
Oh, perfect.
He had the bed kind of angled down. So he had me lying there, and then he dropped like a whole bottle of saline solution all over my face.
Oh, that's funny,
so
joke.
Up my nose, and I was just like drowning in saline, and
he
so
waterboarded you
basically, and then so he stitches me up, and you could tell he's just not having a good day. It's like 2 a.m,
right?
And this nurse comes up to me, and she's like, "I can give you extra gauze. I'm not supposed to, but I can."
I'm not supposed to. He specifically told me not to give you extra gauze.
Like I think it was her way of trying to like make up for like
his ale. Oh my lord.
And then the next time I got really busted open. So that was this lip. And then down here, I actually have a big bump on the middle of my lip. It's permanent.
Right.
I'm working Kevin Cannon in Winnipeg. He actually finally got me he's like, I'll get you wings. That was like 7 years ago. He finally bought me a pizza to make up for it the other day. 7 years later.
Hey, receipts in the mail.
Right. So basically, I don't know what he was thinking, but I went to German him, and he kind of rotated, and his belt caught my lip and ripped it in half.
Oh.
And so I could feel like my face was burning, like as if you'd fallen on the concrete, like it was just burning.
Yeah.
And so I like go to hook him in my sharpshooter, and I just like all the blood is just like dropping on him, and I was like, we're going home. And like I went to the finish right away. My parents were there, and so I was actually visiting home. I was doing a show just to like pick up some extra money for my show, like for
right.
You
were home, just ran. Okay.
Yeah, it's hometown. I like to wrestle in front of like people that when I broke in, and so my family's there, like my babysitter comes to everything, and
what did your dad think about that?
He was like, he thought it was not real blood.
Seriously?
Yeah, he's like, oh, she's fine. And I like come out, I was like, Dad, I gotta go to the hospital. Like I've got to go to the hospital.
What did he say to that?
Yeah, he was like, oh, okay, well, let's go. And
that's funny.
My cousin, who was like a big wrestling fan, and like he's much older than me, but like we didn't really we recently got closer, and so that was his first time seeing me live. And
okay,
he's like, I'll come with you to the hospital. So it was like a big party at the hospital.
Oh, that's awesome. How many stitches?
And that one was 5. And so I get in there, and I need a lot more freezing than most people.
Right.
So I get in there, and the doctor's like it's not like I can still feel it. So he's then he gets in there like with a vengeance. He grabs that needle, and he's like, nah, 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 like just it was like, and so I'm bleeding, like the blood comes out like this and drops down all the way down. And my dad is in the room with me with his freaking camera. He's like, hold still. And he's taking he's like, you look like you ate somebody. No shit's given.
That is hilarious.
Zero. So this is my first day home for my week-long visit, and I'm in the hospital for like 7 hours.
And your dad's taking pictures.
Yeah. And then the next day, like I asked for, when I left, I said, aren't you going to give me an antibiotic? Because the last time I got a mouth cut, they did.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, just like rinse some salt water and some saline. You'll be good. I'm like, you do know how dirty the mouth is, right? Like I'm not in my home province right now. Like I can't just go and get this stuff as easily. Like I have to go through the hospital. I don't have a family doctor. So he's like, no, you'll be fine. And I was like, okay. So like we go the next day, and it got full blown infected.
Well, of course it did.
It's just like, it was huge. It looked like I had like something not so good on my face. Like something I would have to explain to people. So I had arranged to train with my trainer from who trained me for bodybuilding.
Okay.
And so I go to the gym all set to just have a quick workout with him. And I get there. He's like, I hope you don't mind, but I've thrown you into this powerlifting competition. And I was like,
oh no.
So I've got basically what looks like herpes
Nice.
on my face with a bunch of strangers that I don't know. And so I basically sat around the whole day telling people I don't have herpes.
Yeah, you're just the whole time like it's infected. It's just an infection lip.
Yeah. I had to go through the whole story. Then it got really bad. So then I went back to the hospital and they're like, no, you're going to have to wait for 6 hours for like, I was like, I literally was here. All I'm asking for is that same doctor to write a prescription for the infection that he,
or any doctor caused. Just to write,
like anything. So they're like, sorry. So, I then went to a walk-in and she's like, well, we might have to get you to cut that open and drain it. I was like, this is not getting cut open ever again. No. So you're just going to give me the antibiotic and we're going to be on our way. And yeah, luckily it worked, but like it's permanent there. So now when I wear like lipstick that isn't like the stain, that's the first place the lipstick disappears, is right on that scar.
Is that right? Eh?
Right in the middle. And then the first time I got stitches was my eyelid.
This is all you getting busted open pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I got my brother one time. I went to do a moonsault, like jump up from the outside, hit your ass on the top rope and flip in, do a moonsault into the ring. Okay. For whatever reason, I thought I should turn my head and corkscrewed and gave him like the meat of the forearm right in the mouth. And his lip blew up like a cherry. I never did that move ever again.
Probably for good reason.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it scared me after that. That's probably as bad as I've heard anybody.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's been. I mean, like, I don't think I've ever. I'm trying to think if I've. I mean, I might have caught people a little bit. Like, I don't think I've ever really. Actually, I busted Bob open once.
He fucking had it coming at Bobby Sharp
with the belt. He's got a little like nick on his nose now. So
that's a love scar.
It is. I know.
Yeah. He thinks of you every time he looks in the mirror. He's at work looking. Oh, cat.
Well, for me, I'm gonna go when I have kids and be like, "Look what I did to your father. Do you think I won't hurt you?" And that'll be a perfect reminder. I like this parenting style already.
The Bobcats are going to be well disciplined.
Yeah, like my dad raised me off of fear. I figured I might as well carry on with that tradition.
If I was scared, you should be too. God damn it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. On that note, let's talk about what you got coming up. I'm going to let you get out of here. And you know what? We'll schedule it. I think we'll go in a couple months from now because I want to do a whole show on your bodybuilding. Don't say a word about it. I want to do a whole show just about your bodybuilding.
Okay.
So yeah, what do you got coming up next? What do you got going for the next, what are we looking at? 12 weeks, I guess.
So basically I think most weekends I'm at, Norwood Legion for RCW.
Okay.
Saturday, Sundays, depending on the weekend. I'll be in Thrash Wrestling in, BC, on the 29th.
Where's that? Nine Thrash Wrestling?
I believe that is, Kelowna.
Okay, I'm not paying attention to BC wrestling.
I'm going up with I believe Johnny Devine's on that show as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I think in June I'll be working for BEW in small towns in like near Saskatoon, kind of like small towns just outside of it. I think Melfort and stuff like that. We're doing a 3-day tour there.
Nice.
And of course, Pan-Am, I usually every second Wednesday at the back alley, and I believe in May we have a tour coming up, and then of course. RCW has their big anniversary tour or show in Edmonton on May 21st, and that's where I'll be wrestling Taya Valkyrie. So
when's your next back alley show?
That will be, for me, it'll be May. I want to say it's May. It's the first weekend the first Wednesday in May. I think it's May 6th or something like that.
Okay. Don't let me forget. Keep in touch and I will come down and see you guys at that show.
Awesome.
I'll be honest. I don't go to wrestling shows anymore, but I'll come see you guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll come down and see you. What is your social media so that people can follow you?
Both Facebook and Instagram is at Kat Von Heez. So pretty easy to find. I don't have all of the fancy other stuff yet. I'm not very well versed in the rest of it.
Like the Instagram and stuff?
No, Instagram and Facebook, I'm good, but like Twitter and
Twitter's a cesspool. You don't need it. Stay off that shit.
Snapchat's the other one I don't. And I don't do TikTok. Look, I don't know how to do it. I'm sure I can make some funny videos, but
I'll be honest with you, and you and Bobby, I bet, could make some hilarious TikTok videos because you both have personalities to spare.
Yeah, we might do something eventually, but yeah. I don't even know how to begin filming them. Like I see all like the behind the scenes videos that they do, and I'm like, I don't have that kind of time to invest in a 30-second video.
That's true. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how produced that stuff is, right?
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. People are like, you're funny, you should do a TikTok. I'm like, I'm only funny because I'm being an idiot. They can't capture that on film. All right, my friend, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for your time. It was great having you here.
Oh, it's great to chat with you.
We'll talk again soon.
Yeah, talk again soon.
All right,
Duke,
bye.
You
Bye.
suck.
You shut your mouth.